There is a lot of happening with Godot, but it is often not easy to keep track of what's going on. So here are some of the best upcoming features and interesting things that's happening inside Godot development. We'll talk about what's coming to the next version, the current status of some of the most highly anticipated features, and what we could expect in the near future. First, let's talk about the next release. It's been 4 months since the previous one, and Godot 4.4 has a lot of incredible new things. So, to keep it short, here are some of the big ones. Godot now has a game tab that lets you select objects inside of a running game. Right now, you can toggle the 3D button to allow you to select objects in your 3D scene, or 2D for 2D objects and scenes. The object is selected from the Remote tab, allowing you to see its properties and make changes. And you can re-enable controls by selecting the Input button. You can also pause the game and run it frame by frame for debugging, or to help selecting objects. Enabling the camera button will allow you to override and manually move your game's camera around the scene. And you can also hide the selection gizmos. And this is only the beginning. More enhancements on these features are being worked on right now, but more on that later. You can now set favorites for your node's properties. This will place them at the top of the inspector. So now you can keep all those transform variables right at the top, where they are easily accessible. No more scrolling down trying to find them. There is now a very easy method to add buttons to the inspector. You can create inspector buttons with the Add Export To decorator. Creating debug buttons has never been easier. No more messing around with get property lists anymore. One big change for the engine is that now all the resources are using UIDs internally. This will make things much more stable, especially when moving and renaming files. Script files will now come with an .uid file, while other resources should remain the same, as they declare their own UIDs internally. Betsy was added to speed up compression on bakelite maps. This was a much needed addition, reducing bake times from 90 seconds down to half a second when working on HK HDRs. Who hasn't had to deal with shader stutters? Now, Uber Shaders has come to the rescue. They are a way to reduce the stutters caused by shader compilation during runtime. They work by having a precompiled big shader with a lot of features that is used in place of your real shader until that is compiled and replaced. This should help in a lot of cases, without any modifications to your games. And now, some minor but very important things. The Quick Open window now uses fuzzy search, which means you don't need to type the exact file name anymore. A few letters from the file is enough to open the file you want. There is now a Look at Modifier 3D that makes it really easy to change your animation dynamically. It also comes with a lot of options to refine the effect and get exactly what you want, such as limiting the angles and how it moves to the target. The Quick Open can now switch between grid and list views. And GDScript now supports typed dictionaries. Using the correct type in them will give you a much better display of their values in the inspector. Godot now will finally remember the window's position and size. You can also change how it works in the editor settings. Collision shapes can now have custom colors. You can now customize the collision color, which is very helpful for making zone triggers. You can now quickly move objects around with the reposition hotkey. Pressing the hotkey while the object is selected will move it where the mouse is, based on its shape. Now it is very easy to reposition your objects around the scene. Those are just some of the features of the upcoming 4.4 release. But there is a lot of interesting ones I didn't cover here, and there is a lot more going on. Here's some of the interesting things that are actively being developed right now. But keep in mind, those are merely being worked on, and there is no guarantee they will be accepted yet. Following the new Game tab feature, there is going to be an option to embed the game inside Godot. Putting your game inside the Godot window where you can easily access the debug buttons. There is also an option to make it a floating window and have the debug buttons on top of it. The development of this seems to be going very well, and it is mostly ready, so there is a high chance it is going to be merged soon. As a side note, embedded Windows doesn't work on Mac, but this will be worked on later on a separate PR. 3D model files still doesn't have thumbnails, which is very annoying. This aims to fix it. This feature will add basic thumbnails to 3D models inside your project panel. This was actually merged recently, while I was preparing this video. This one is interesting. It allows you to expose some nodes inside your scenes, so you can quickly make changes to them. You can expose a child node down the scene tree. And now, when you add this node, it will show its exposed nodes ready for you to add things. It will not show the parents, only the exposed nodes. This is especially useful for making reusable UI scenes less cluttered. or 3D models to expose positions where you want to attach things. This was making quick progress, but there was some discussion recently on how this and editable children might be doing similar things, so we'll see how it goes. I still hope this gets accepted, as it seems very useful in some cases. Depth functions and stencil operations are still a bit stuck. This includes adding the stencil option to the default shader and allow you to make better and proper outline and X-ray shaders. Even though the feature is working, it is being put on hold until Godot has a proper way to change the order of rendering commands, which depends on the rendering compositor. That will change how rendering works in Godot, so it is very unlikely that we'll be seeing this anytime soon. A while back, there was a feature to disable nodes in Godot that led to some discussions. The official stance on this is that, due to how the node's lifecycle works, it should be made a bit differently. And a proposal about how such feature would need to work was created by one of the maintainers. Basically, instead of disabling nodes, you would stash them instead. A stashed node lives outside the tree and inside its parent's node stash, waiting for it to be unstashed again and re-entering the tree, with all these proper signals called. If you just need the node to stop operating, you can still disable its visibility and process functions separately. There is no work on this so far, so this is still an uncertain thing. But on happier news, Godot is now being made part of Godot, and it is now the new default 3D engine, with the old 3D engine still available as an option. There was a lot of work done on this, and it is now officially merged, so you'll be seeing it in the next dev release, with a nice performance gain for 3D physics. And that's it for now. There is still a lot of things going on, but I will end it here and keep this short. I'm not sure if this kind of video is interesting, but if you want to know what's going on inside Godot, I'll try to keep you informed, with a quick summary of all those neat little features that are often overlooked, as well as any dev news I find. I hope you liked this video, and until next time.